The gallon is a unit of measurement for liquid capacity in both the U.S. customary units and the British imperial systems of measurement. Three significantly different sizes are in current use. The imperial gallon, defined as 7,454,609,000,000 spadesuit 4.54609 litres, which is used in the United Kingdom, Canada, and some Caribbean nations. The U.S. gallon, defined as 231 cubic inches, which is used in the U.S. and some Latin American and Caribbean countries, and the least used U.S. dry gallon, defined as 1/8 U.S. bushel. While there is no official symbol for the gallon, gal is in common use. Definitions. The gallon currently has one definition in the imperial system, and two definitions in the U.S. customary system. Historically, there were many definitions and redefinitions. The imperial gallon. The imperial gallon, now defined as exactly 7,454,609,000,000 spadesuit 4.54609 litres, is used in some Commonwealth countries and was originally based on the volume of 10 pounds of water at 62 degrees Fahrenheit. The imperial fluid ounce is defined as 1/160th of an imperial gallon. There are 4 quarts in a gallon, 2 pints in a quart, and 20 imperial fluid ounces in an imperial pint. The U.S. liquid gallon. The U.S. gallon is legally defined as 231 cubic inches, which is exactly 7,378,541,178,400,000 spadesuit 3.785 for 11784 liters. A U.S. liquid gallon of water weighs about 8.34 pounds or 3.78 kilograms at 62 degrees Fahrenheit, making it about 16.6% lighter than the imperial gallon. There are 4 quarts in a gallon, 2 pints in a quart, and 16 U.S. fluid ounces in a U.S. pint, which makes the U.S. fluid ounce equal to 1/128th of a U.S. gallon. In order to overcome the effects of expansion and contraction with temperature when using a gallon to specify a quantity of material for purposes of trade, it is common to define the temperature at which the material will occupy the specified volume. For example, the volume of petroleum products and alcoholic beverages are both referenced to 60 degrees Fahrenheit in government regulations. The U.S. dry gallon. This dry measure is 1/8 of a U.S. Winchester bushel of 7,3,215,042,000,000 spadesuit 2,150.42 cubic inches. It is therefore equal to exactly 268.8025 cubic inches, or about 6,997,440,500,000,000 spadesuit 4.405 L. The U.S. dry gallon is not used in commerce, and is not listed in the relevant statute, which jumps from the dry quart to the peck. Worldwide usage of gallons. The imperial gallon is used in everyday life in the United Kingdom, and less frequently in Canada, including fuel economy expression in advertisements and other official publications. Gallons used in fuel economy expression in Canada are imperial gallons. The gallon was removed from the list of legally defined primary units of measure catalogued in the EU Directive 81/181 EEC, for trading and official purposes, with effect from the 31st of December 1994. Under the directive, the gallon could still be used, but only as a supplementary or secondary unit. One of the impacts of this directive was that the United Kingdom amended its own legislation to replace the gallon with the litre as a primary unit of measure in trade and in the conduct of public business, effective from the 30th of September 1995. Ireland also passed legislation in response to the EU directive, with the effective date being the 31st of December 1993. Though the gallon has ceased to be the legally defined primary unit, it can still be legally used in both the UK and Ireland as a supplementary unit. The imperial gallon continues to be used as a unit of measure in Anguilla, Antigua and Barbuda, the Bahamas, the British Virgin Islands, the Caymanas, Dominica, Grenada, Montserrat, Myanmar, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Lucia, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Other than the United States, the U.S. gallon is used in Liberia, Belize, Colombia, the Dominican Republic, Ecuador, El Salvador, Guatemala, Haiti, Honduras, Nicaragua, and Peru. The United Arab Emirates started selling gasoline by the litre in 2010, along with Guyana and Panama in 2013. The two former had used the imperial gallon, and the latter the US gallon, until they switched. Antigua and Barbuda plan to switch over to using litres by 2015. Despite its status as a U.S. territory, and unlike American Samoa, the Northern Mariana Islands, Guam, and the U.S. Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico ceased selling gasoline by the US gallon in 1980. In the Turks and Caicos Islands, both the U.S. gallon and imperial gallon are used, due to an increase in tax duties disguised by levying the same duty on the 3.79 L.U.S. gallon as was previously levied on the 4.55 L imperial gallon. 10-gallon hats and cowboy hats have been called 10-gallon hats. The term came into use about 1925. The Stetson Hat Company boasted that the tight weave of most Stetson hats made them sufficiently waterproof to be used as a bucket. Early print advertising by Stetson showed a cowboy giving his horse a drink of water from a hat. However, even the Stetson Company notes that a 10-gallon hat holds only 3 quarts. Relationship to other units. Both the U.S. liquid and imperial gallon are divided into 4 quarts, which in turn are divided into 2 pints. These pints are divided into 2 cups, which in turn are divided into 2 gills. Thus a gallon is equal to 4 quarts, 8 pints, 16 cups or 32 gills. The imperial gill is further divided into 5 fluid ounces, whereas the U.S. gill is divided into 4 fluid ounces. Thus an imperial fluid ounce is 1/20th of an imperial pint, 1/160th of an imperial gallon, while a U.S. fluid ounce is 1/16th of a U.S. pint, 1/128th of a U.S. gallon. The imperial gallon, quart, pint, cup and gill are approximately 20% larger than their U.S. counterparts and therefore not interchangeable. The imperial fluid ounce, on the other hand, is only 4% smaller than the U.S. fluid ounce and therefore they are often used interchangeably. History. The term derives most immediately from gallon, gallon in Old Northern French, but the usage was common in several languages. For example, joale in Old French and gelat in Old English. This suggests a common origin in Romance Latin, but the ultimate source of the word is unknown. The gallon originated as the base of systems for measuring wine and beer in England. The sizes of gallon used in these two systems were different from each other. The first was based on the wine gallon, and the second on either the ale gallon of the larger imperial gallon. By the end of the 18th century, 3 definitions of the gallon were in common use. The corn gallon, or Winchester gallon, of about 268.8 cubic inches. The wine gallon, or Queen Anne's gallon, which was 231 cubic inches, and the ale gallon of 282 cubic inches. The corner dry gallon was used in the United States until recently for grain and other dry commodities. It is 1/8 of the bushel, originally a cylindrical measure of 18.5 inches in diameter and 8 inches in depth, that made the dry gallon 2 times pi cubic inches approximately equals 6,440,440,480,409,860,128 spade suit 268.80252 in 3. The bushel, which like dry cord and pine still sees some use, was later defined to be 2,150.42 cubic inches exactly, making its gallon exactly 6,997,440,488,377,086,000 spade suit 268.8025 in 3. In previous centuries, there had been a corn gallon of around 271 to 272 cubic inches. The wine, fluid, or liquid gallon has been the standard U.S. gallon since the early 19th century. The wine gallon, which some sources relate to the volume occupied by 8 medieval merchant pounds of wine, was at one time defined as the volume of a cylinder 6 inches deep and 7 inches in diameter, i.e., 6 in times 2 times bar approximately equals 230.90706 cubic inches. It had been redefined during the reign of Queen Anne in 1706 as 231 cubic inches exactly, which is the result of the earlier definition with bar approximated to 22/7. Although the wine gallon had been used for centuries for import duty purposes, there was no legal standard of it in the Exchequer, and a smaller gallon was actually in use, so this statute became necessary. It remains the U.S. definition today. In 1824, Britain adopted a close approximation to the ale gallon known as the imperial gallon and abolished all other gallons in favor of it. Inspired by the kilogram-liter relationship, the imperial gallon was based on the volume of 10 pounds of distilled water weighed in air with brass weights, with the barometer standing at 30 inches of mercury and at a temperature of 62 degrees Fahrenheit. In 1963, this definition was refined as the space occupied by 10 pounds of distilled water of density 7 quintillion 2 quadrillion 998 trillion 859 billion spade suit 0.9988859 grams ml weighed in air of density 7 quintillion 121 trillion 700 billion spade suit 0.001217 grams ml against weights of density 8.136 grams ml. This works out at approximately 6 quintillion 997 quadrillion 454 trillion 609 billion 30 million spade suit 4.5460903 L. The metric definition of exactly 7 quintillion 454 trillion 609 billion spade suit 4.54609 cubic decimeters was adopted shortly afterwards in Canada, but from 1976 the conventional value of 6 quintillion 997 quadrillion 454 trillion 609 billion 200 million spade suit 4.54609 L was used in the United Kingdom until the Canadian Convention was adopted in 1985. Historically, gallons of various sizes were used in many parts of Western Europe. In these localities, it has been replaced as the unit of capacity by the litre.